Hello all, let's get this started. And in this video, I'm going to talk about test taking skill. One of the students asked me, sir, I think you should do video on test taking skills. There you go. Let's talk about test taking skills. The objective, of course, is to identify those skills that are needed to ensure that you do well in the test. Now, when you look at the test, which has got, let's say, a set number of questions, which is 66 questions, it is not that I may not have the competence to solve all the questions or may not have the knowledge to solve all the questions. My competence level may be here, let's say. I have, let's say, ability to solve about 50 out of the 66 questions. I have the ability. But eventually in the test, I probably end up solving, let's say, something like a 40 questions. Right? Out of the questions that I solve, I end up getting maybe about the 30 questions correct and 10 questions wrong. Something like that, 10 incorrect and let's say 30 questions that I got. So I get this 90 mark minus 10 marks. I end up getting 80 marks. Then of course there are 2-3 gaps. One of course is, why did I get a particular question wrong? The second is, there are a lot many questions that I knew how to solve but I missed it. And the third, of course, is those questions that I don't know how to solve. I have to learn something. From a test taking skill perspective, test taking skill does not understand this, address this part, which means your knowledge gap or a competence gap. This would be your sort of your competence gap. The test taking skills, just because you have better test taking skill does not mean that you can solve things that you don't know how to solve. The test taking skills is essentially about maximizing here, right? All the things that I know I should solve, which means that I have a lot of missed opportunity. Missed opportunities are those questions that I know how to solve, but I ended up not solving. That's a missed opportunity. So test taking skills definitely can help there. And the second is all those mistakes that I made. I'm just going to call them silly mistakes. All mistakes are silly. Which mistake is not silly? All mistakes are silly. So the test taking skill can address these two aspects. So let's talk about the skill set that is required to ensure that those two happens. Now, one issue or the easy solution is to simply say that I need to have more speed. And this is a solution that many end up having, that I should improve my speed. The reason why I'm not able to solve these many questions is because I'm not fast enough. The reason why I'm not able to solve all the RC passages is because I'm not fast enough. The reason why I'm not able to complete the the QA section is because I'm not fast enough. And then the remedy is, how do I increase my speed? Now, to me, this is a bad diagnosis. Okay, it's a bad diagnosis. I tell you why. Let's start with each of the section and talk about the skills. Let me start with VARC section. Now, VARC section has got, let's say, 4 passages. I'm just going at this point in time, go with the 40 minutes session. Okay, so 40 minutes, which is your CAT 2020 and 2021. This year it may be 40 minutes, maybe 60 minutes per section, but you can apply the same logic everywhere. Okay. Now, each of these passages, so this passage will have these 4 questions. This passage has got 4 questions. This passage has got 4 questions. This passage has got 4 questions, and the VA has got 8 questions. Right. Now, I can vouch that many of you say that, look, I don't know, but sometimes I can only solve 3 passages. Okay. The first thing that you must understand when it comes to the skill set, or when you look at the skills, the first thing that you must understand, your marks are essentially, you get the mark if you solve a particular question. I think that seems to be a very simple thing to say. Sir, what's going on? What are you saying? Everybody knows that. It's not great deal. But the reason why I'm saying that is because the way in which I look at the VR section is looking at passage 1, passage 2, passage 3, passage 4, and then VA. I don't think that's how you should look at the paper. You look at the paper based on, I have got this number of questions that is given to me, 24 questions that is given to me. My job is to ensure that I knock off as many questions as possible. Now, I know a lot many people have this attitude which says that out of these four passages, I will solve only three. You know how that sounds to me? It's like cat telling you, come here, beta. You know, na. If this is four passages, okay? You solve these four passages and come go to IM. You will say, nah, I don't need four passages. I don't need it. One passage you keep. I don't want it. How am I saying I don't want a passage? Why am I even starting with that point of view before I even start taking the test? Why do I, before even the test started, why am I even deciding I'm going to solve three passages, I'm going to solve two passages? Why? I don't know what the paper is going to be. I don't know what the level of difficulty is. I don't know. So why am I starting from there? Because I've already decided that मेरा औकात नहीं है, मेरे पास वो औकात नहीं है कि मैं चार पैसेज करूं. मेरा औकात तीन पैसेज का है, मेरा औकात दो पैसेज का है. ये पहला प्रॉब्लम. And the man, okay, let me put it this way, right? If I, the activities that I have to do, like for when it comes to passage, let's say I have to read the read passage, then I have to read questions, and I have to evaluate options. And sometimes to evaluate option, I may have to go back and revisit the passage. But these are the three distinct activities that I have to do, right? And out of these three distinct activity, I cannot solve question without reading the passage. So this is a must activity. So I have to of course read the passage. That's must. That's for sure. The second activity is I have to read the question. That is must. If I read the passage, read the question. I can evaluate the option, but here is where I have the choice of the marking an answer. I also have a choice for leaving the question. The problem is we never leave a question when it comes to paragraph reading comprehension, because we already told ourselves that I'm anyway going to solve only three passages. Because I'm going to solve three passages, whichever is the passage that I'm going to pick, I have to solve all the four questions. Otherwise, question is going to feel really bad. Shucks, I read the passage. What will the question feel? The question will feel so bad. But why? Now, the passages that is given to me are 500 words. How much time does it take? The time that it takes is probably about what, 4 minutes maybe? Now, I'm sure there are a couple of questions where you can actually knock it off in about 30 seconds. But then there is that one question where you evaluate the option and you got really confused. You're going back to the passage, you're coming back, you're going back, you're coming back, you're going back, you're coming back. And then before you know it, you wasted 2 minutes and 3 minutes. Why could I have just left the question earlier? I could have said, I'm getting confused, let's just leave the question. So the first thing that I want all of you to understand, one of the skill set, I don't think there's a skill, I'm just saying an attitude. Attitude is to eventually say that my marks I'm going to get is from the question, and questions are what going to give me the marks. Me marking a question correctly will give me the mark. If I, in my mind, decide that I'm just going to leave a passage completely, in my mind, I've already decided completely, I'm also going to miss out some of the easy questions that is there in that particular passage. It is not that every single question in a particular passage are of same level of difficulty. There could be varied level of difficulty. So this is the first issue. The second issue with respect to speed is that we only apply speed to reading passage. We don't apply speed to anything else. We don't apply the speed in which I'm going to decide to leave a question. No. We end up applying the issue of speed onto the passage. And then we read the passage fast. When we read the passage fast, we don't understand what the passage is. We have to read the passage again. So one of the most important test-taking skill is to know yourself. In fact, when it comes to VRC, is know your comprehension speed. or let's say pace of comprehension, and stick to the pace of comprehension. That's number one. When you read a passage, you read a passage. You go to the question and do as much as you can. So the key thing about VRC, and the same goes with VA questions. I don't want to get unnecessarily stuck in a particular question. Why do you get stuck? Because I read some fast. You have to read at the pace of your comprehension. Read at the pace of your comprehension. Read a question. Okay, evaluate the four options. Something making sense, mark it. If it's getting confused, okay, maybe I'll just go back to the passage, check once. I come back, okay, resolve, I'll mark it. But let's say I read this question. I'm looking at the four options. I'm getting a little confused. I went to the passage. I came back. I'm still confused. Then I don't want to go back to the passage. I really don't want, because that is not giving me marks. The activities that I'm doing in those 40 minutes should be activity that is going to help me get marks. Now, reading faster than the pace of my comprehension is an activity that is not going to get me marks, because I'm going to get confused. So the simple strategy that you will have to adopt something like a VRC as a section, specifically with this VR section, is to keep everything absolutely simple. You're not starting by saying that I have a plan. I will leave something. You're merely saying that, look, I'm going to read the passage. A basic understanding the passage will help me at least knock off a couple of questions at least. I'll do that. I'll go to the next passage. I'll go to the next passage. I'll go to the next passage, and then probably go to VA or whichever order. You can start with VA. You can start with this. I also do understand some of you. It's probably going to be difficult to look at those four passages. Fair enough. No issues. If you say that you've tried everything, it's not working me. I'm going to. I want to pick up over three passages. Fair enough. And you probably will want to, then the only thing that you want to look at is, okay, let me look at the passages and start picking the passage that is easy for me to comprehend. Start doing that. Even then, please don't get stuck in a question. In fact, please don't get stuck in an option. The issue in VRC does not come from passage. It does not. You can understand passages, provided, of course, you give a little time to it. Right? It is going to be on the options. It's how options are created. So a simple thing about test taking strategy is to keep it very, very simple. Okay, let me actually move on to the second section, which is DILR. And in the DR section, one other thing, and this may be the issue with the VRC, but I'm going to tell you one thing in DLR is a timer. And especially when the timer hits 9 minutes left, something happens. I don't know what happens in the 40 minutes. Let's assume that 40 minutes, right? In the 40 minutes, if I divide into 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes, what I feel is very different from the first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes or the second 10 minutes, last 10 minutes is like you suddenly feel that 10 minutes is going faster than the initial 10 minutes. Why is the timer going so fast? The timer is going fast. We end up looking at the timers towards the end and honestly start thinking about a lot many random things. Worrying is not going to give you anything. You have to ensure that that does not happen. Now, the way in which you can deal with it is make your timer your friend. Saying that you have a broad idea in terms of where you will be at about 10 minutes, where you'll be in the next 10 minutes, where will be the next 10 minutes, where will be the 10 minutes. That happens with respect to VRC as well. Broad sort of managing time, a broad thing. You should have some idea. I have got some idea in terms of where I want to be. Of course, it is not written on stone, but I need to have some idea as to where I want to be. And don't worry about this time. It doesn't matter. Don't look at the last 9 minutes and go right. So that's number one. Now DLR has got sets, right? And let's say set one, same thing. Okay, let's look at DLR. We have got set one, set two, set three, and set four. Now we have got two sets with 4 questions. If I go with the last year's pattern, and 2 sets with the 6 questions. Okay. Now in VRC, maybe I can solve everything. In DLR, it may not be possible to knock off everything, right? So you have to be a little sensible. There are 2 ways you can approach. One is, the first one is, okay, let me look at all the four sets here. Let me read the set and make a decision as to which set I want to solve. That means I'm spending probably about 5 minutes to maybe even 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes going through the set and then figuring out. Which means when I say going through the set, I cannot just look at the set and make the decision. I'm reading the set, which means I'm reading the going through the information that is given to me, looking at the question. I'll do that. Then I make a judgment in terms of what are the couple of sets I want to start with. At least I'll start by saying, okay, this is my favorite set. I'm going to start with here. I'm going to go here. This is my third. This is my fourth. I would want to create some sort of ordering in terms of how I'm going to take the test. But that I cannot do in 2 minutes. That I cannot do in 3 minutes. You will spend the time. And the remaining, whatever the time that you have, which will be about 32 minutes to 35 minutes, I will start solving the set. This is one. The number two that you can do is, okay, this is like saying that I'm going to read set number one, I'll read set number two, I'll read set number three, I'll read set number four, I'll decide, and then I start solving in the order. Okay, you could just do this, read set number one, and if you think I can solve it immediately. Right. If you read set number one, you feel that I don't want to solve it, move to the next one. So either ways, you are making a decision, whether in a series fashion or otherwise, you're making a decision after doing this one set, do I want to solve it or not? Either you first read all the sets first and make the decision, or read the first set, and if you made a decision, just go through start solving it, and then move to the next one, make a decision, and move to the next one, and so on and so forth. That's up to you. Okay, whenever I've made a decision on a particular set, then my attitude should be that I'm solving it. I'm solving the set. Okay, I'm just going to commit to it. I'm going to use the rough sheet, 2 pages, 2 sides for one set. I'm going to systematic in my approach. One other thing that is also very, very important to understand, here again, my marks are going to come with questions. So I have seen in many cases, it is quite possible that you say that there are 3 questions I could do. One fourth question was slightly confusing. You could just skip and move on. There is no obligation that just because I've read the set, I have to answer every single question. I can just move on. In fact, many people are smart. Okay, I'll just solve these 2 sets. Okay, this is tough. Okay, this is okay. Let me move to the next set. Let me try and solve this. Right? And another thing that also happened with respect to DLR, if we get stuck at some point in time in any of the set, no problem. Just leave the set for the time being, move to the next one, and come back to it later. You don't want to just fight with the set then and there. That's it. So just be systematic when it comes to DLR, and make a decision as to what you want to do, and then ensure that your timer is your friend. Math has got a different problem. Right? Math has got different areas: arithmetic, algebra, geometry, modern maths, and let's say numbers. And they're obviously not given in this order. It'll be random. And I'm guessing that about 7-8 questions will be from arithmetic. There'll be some 5-6 questions from algebra, some 3-4 questions from geometry, maybe 1 or 2 questions from modern maths and numbers. That's how it is. Now, what typically happens in maths is that we have some favorites. It starts saying that I know arithmetic, I know algebra, and we have some hate relationship with something. I don't like geometry. Okay, I don't like geometry. I don't like modern maths. And because of that hate relations that we have, we basically decide, okay, whenever I see an arithmetic, I have to attack it. I have to do it. I have to attack the question. Now, within arithmetic or any area, that whichever is your area, there are questions that are going to be easy, there are questions that are going to be medium, and there are questions that is going to be difficult. Now, you must understand, just like the story in paragraph reading comprehension, or the story in set, it doesn't mean that just because I like arithmetic, I have to solve every question. And just because I don't like geometry, I cannot solve some question. Your marks are going to come from questions, not from the area that you love. Just because I like arithmetic does not mean that I have to spend. This is not. The math session is not a session, okay, spend time with your favorite section. That's not that section. That section is about, you read all the questions then. I'm saying that post the test, I think from the mock test perspective, post the test, you figure out stuff. But in the test, the best thing I want to do is I want to actually look at this. In fact, I would even go one step further and think about in terms of round one and round two. I read every question. I will read the question. I get an understanding, whether I can solve it or not. If I feel that I can solve it, okay, that's great. If, I will solve it. If I feel that I can solve it, but it's going to take time, round two, I'll do it later. Round three of those questions, I don't know something. You can still keep, for example, if you don't like certain area, let's say geometry, you keep by default geometry at round two. Push it later, but ensure that you are actually looking at all the questions. And when you're solving the particular question, focus on that particular question. And then move on. It is absolutely important not to have any love affair with anything. It doesn't matter. You don't know how it's going to be. You have to look at every single question and do your best. So when you know, the in general, the problem, I've written a lot many stuff here. In general, the issue, in general, the problem is two things. Number one, we have preconceived notions. Before the test started, I have created a target. How do you know? Okay. You can have, let's say, the questions. You've got verbal, you've got DLR, you've got QA. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Okay. You're basically assuming that level 1, level 1 to nahi hoga. The section will not be level 1. It'll be either 2, 3, 4, or 5. Probably 3, 4, 5. Let's say 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's say 3. Either level 3, level 4, level 5, or whatever. Let's say that what is going to happen, there are multiple possibilities in terms of what is the paper that is there in front of you. Maybe the verbal is easy, maybe the DLR is easy, maybe the Q is easy, maybe the QA is tough. You will probably have at the bare minimum 3 cube, which is 27 possibilities at the bare minimum. If you actually look at 5 cube, 125 possibilities, one of them will be there in front of you. I don't have any targets. See, the percentile score distribution is calculated after the test. It is after the test. You cannot, I don't think a lot of us take the CAT, right? Even for me, I cannot take one test and go, okay, let me guess the percentile for this. Let me look at the score distribution. How do we even think about it? Once the test is done, okay. So let's say we have got everybody in Career Launcher goes and takes his CAT test. Then we sit together and discusses this one, and we kind of look at what probably the level of difficulty we align to some of the mock tests or the past CAT tests. We come up with a judgment in terms of what is the percentile score, and sometimes, most of the time, we get it right. Most of the sometimes our understanding is low. We'll never get to know what the target is when you're taking the test. So first is not to have any sort of notions, no target. Don't start by saying that I have to somehow get 8 out of 8. I have heard that DLR cutoff is getting 8 questions. I know it, but who knows? 4 questions may be good enough. Who knows? Who knows? So this is number one. Number two, I give up in the middle. Talk to me. You're taking the mock test. You've taken. I'm talking about mock test. We are still not talking about CAT. We'll talk about CAT later. But let's talk about the test. You took the VR section. Almost going, oh my God, what is this? You go to DLR section. Oh, why am I doing this? Oh my God, I quit my job also for this. I don't know what's happening. And you are going to the QA section with no enthuse whatsoever. Maybe you will just close it and have a cup of tea and come back and solve the test also. Why people give up? People give up in the middle. Why? If it's a 2-hour test, you don't give up in front of the movie. Something can happen. The climax will be good. Who knows? Don't give up. Third is we just don't like to leave things. We hate to leave. I don't know. We read a passage. We have to resolve the question. We read a set. We did not get this passage. We leave it for 2 reasons. One is ego. Just ego. What do you mean? Huh? Arithmetic? What do you mean? I'm and other is fear. Okay. Most of the psychologists, okay, say that if you are in a if someone is in a abusive relationship, you should try and quit it as early as possible. So which means if at the first hit, that's when you leave the relationship. Because if you stick around, chances are it's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. Okay, I'm talking about relationship. Let's go to the test. Arithmetic. We are friends. We are spend a lot of nights together. Spend, and there is this one question. I read this question, and the question did this whack. Like, wait, I'm not going to leave you. No, 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 I'll still love you. I won't leave you. No, 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 I don't want to leave. We are here not to make any long-term relationship. Our job is to flirt. So ability to leave is absolutely important. When to leave? I think when to leave is also important. I will leave after reading. I know not many people leave by just looking at the question. The question, this question doesn't look good. I will leave. No, keep your life simple. Therefore, at least I have to ensure that I should not have the very least. I know that you will make some mistake because you're hurrying stuff, but I should not have any missed opportunity. Missed opportunity happened because I got stuck somewhere. So again, the simple to sum up, the key thing is to ensure that you focus on the questions. When you say focus on the question, know that questions are going to get you marks. If this question is troubling you, doesn't matter. You know that there will be some other question. Instead of spending more time in the question that is troubling you, I should rather go to a new place with a new hope with another question. Even if that question is troubling you, I'll keep on going. If I reach to the very end and every question troubled me, all right, so that's the best that I could do. But that does not mean I'm going to get stuck somewhere. That's it. That's what I thought to share with you. And I'll keep meeting you again with some more gyan. Bye.